and alike.
Hosted by four-time Emmy-nominated producer
Frank Pace and retired New York City firefighter, 9/11 first responder, and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Today's guest, longtime Dodgers general manager and author of Extra Innings, Fred Claire.
One.
You're not supposed to say one.
It's a sound check, ain't it?
That's,
No, I like that.
That's
start.
all right.
what?
the hell?
You like that start?
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh, good. Fine. Whatever. Whatever.
How are you, Frank?
Good. Our guest today is Fred Claire. Fred Claire, longtime general manager of the Dodgers, cancer survivor. He's got a great story to tell. So we'll get to Fred in a little while. In the meantime, that way I don't have to interrupt anybody to remind us who our guest is today. So, how's your cell phone?
Oh man! You know what? I was going sailing. I rented a sailboat, right? So you got to take this little test before they let you out in the sailboat. And I'm just sitting on the steps doing a thing, and I got this windbreaker on because it's always windy in the morning. Where the hell was I? Santa Barbara. And the pockets are high. Also, I look over, the cell phone is heading into the water. It's like naturally drops into the water. I said to the guy, "How deep is it?" He goes, "About 20 feet." I said, "Well,
You're not going in.
say goodbye to that." But you know what's funny is once you get the new cell phone, I had it insured, and my friend Blinky, when I told him I had it insured, he goes, "You had it insured? Really?" He goes, "That's amazing." I said, "Yeah, I thought so too. I couldn't believe I was smart enough to take out the insurance because I'm not an insurance type of guy. Everybody tries to upgrade me. The first thing I do is say, 'Yeah, right, yeah, sell it to somebody else. Tell it to the Marines.'" But in any case, I had it insured. So now I'm trying to get all my stuff back about 3 days later, and I'm going through the mechanizations because it's Greek to me, right? I'm doing it. And then I get to the stage where the guy says, "We're going to send you a security code. Punch in the 6 numbers we send you so we can continue with the process." So where did they send the 6 numbers but to my old text phone, which is at the bottom of the ocean?
But you could have looked on your computer because my computer gets texts.
I said to him, "Listen," I said, "my phone is at the bottom of the ocean." And they sent it to me again. And they texted again to the bottom of the ocean. So that was like, anyway, I got to turn it back on. I'm back in business, Frank. And the world is
You're a beauty.
the world is better for it than I'm able to talk on the phone.
The world is better because I couldn't talk to you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Ooh. And this coming from as a baby boomer, right? I mean,
Yeah.
This I never thought would come out of my mouth in a million years. For 4 days, I didn't have a phone. And it was peace. It was almost like unlocking one of those ankle bracelets that you have if you're in prison, It was great. The only thing that bothered me for 4 days, and this is unbelievable for a baby boomer to say, I never knew what time it was. Somebody said, "Pick me up in a half an hour." I was like, "Well, half an hour? When's a half an hour?" It was.
You didn't have a wristwatch?
No, I don't. Who the hell wears wristwatches anymore? Well, you're a producer.
I got so many wristwatches upstairs. If you want one, I'll give it to you.
No, I mean I never wear a watch.
Make sure you take the Rolex.
Huh?
Yeah.
Take the Rolex.
I can get you.
It's a knockoff.
This
It's
is
a knockoff.
this is a real Rolex. But if you want, I can get you a knockoff cheap.
Yeah. That was when I come out.
And nobody knows the difference.
No, and nobody even know. Do you really notice it? When people.
George Lopez gave me this Rolex.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I was eminently thankful for it, and I thank him to this day for being so gracious and generous. But I wouldn't have spent $50 for a knockoff Rolex.
Yeah. I was in China and I got out of the subway and I got accosted by about 20 people. Rolex. They're all selling knockoffs. But we had Steve Papazian in the studio, and he started talking into his wristwatch.
Yeah.
It's like
It's like Dick Tracy, two-way wrist radio in 1935. Chester
like I
Gould.
Spy or something. I said, "What is this?" He's talking into is that a new thing now? Is that like Apple hooks up your wristwatch to your
Yeah. I couldn't use it because I couldn't see it. the numbers wouldn't be big enough. I could, in order for the numbers to be big enough, I could see one letter at a time on this little freaking watch.
It's unbelievable. I mean, your phone. I mean, directions. I hit that GPS for everything. no matter where I'm going.
Oh, I couldn't drive anymore if I didn't have Waze, because I'm so bad with directions. If I get directions more than 2 turns, I say I don't.
Let me call you when I get to that spot.
Oh,
yeah. I'm terrible.
You know, when we were kids, when we would go to my aunts or uncles or someplace, where we hadn't been before, they used to show us. We used to follow them to the freeway.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing.
Yeah, follow us.
I'll get you to the freeway,
to the freeway, and
then you're good. Yeah, that was a big thing. My old man, Lord have mercy on my old man, he knew every bar in the Bronx, and whenever he gave directions, he gave it by bars. He'd say like, "Well, you're going to go 3 blocks, you'll see the Jolly Tinker. Make a left at the Jolly Tinker, you'll go 2 blocks, you'll see McShane's.
Yeah, well,
make a right at McShane's, and if you see Darby O'Gill's, you've gone too far." Everything was the bars, you know. So I mean, I'm terrible with directions. I don't know how people follow me.
Oh, I'm terrible with directions also. I used to when I used to move furniture. You know, Sandy Gold, who was the boss, say, take the 287. I said, wait a second, Sandy. Start with make a left out of the warehouse.
Yeah.
Then go to the corner and make a right. And then go 3 blocks, 3 stoplights.
Don't tell me the 287.
Yeah, don't tell me 287. Don't tell me 5 directions from now. Tell me 5 steps to get to the 287.
We're doing building inspections, right, in the South Bronx, and I'm a boss, right? I'm supposed to, you know, I got to pay attention to this shit.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah, that's scary, right? And we're going around Lincoln Hospital, and we're in Lincoln Hospital, and the guy's giving us the tour, and this is where this is, and if we have a fire here, this is where this is, and this is where this is, and the lights are on, and everything's going on, and after the tour, I got lost for 20 minutes trying to find my way out. And the lights are on. I'm saying, if we got a fire here, we're cooked. These guys are following me. I'm lost.
I can't tell you how many wrong turns I made out of elevators.
Out of elevators?
Yeah. No, when I go in the lobby, if you got to go left or right, if you got to go left, I invariably go right. And no matter how many times I do it, I will make the same mistake twice. Because, you know, a lot of times hotels have got banks of elevators on both sides of the walls. So I never know which one I went down the first time or which one I'm going down this time. I just make a left.
Things like that is so mundane. You're thinking about something else. You don't pay attention to it. That's what it is.
I'm terrible with directions.
Well, I am too. And my wife is good with directions, and she never lets me forget.
Well, my wife's good with directions
because as soon as I start having an argument with directions, she goes, "You know, you're terrible with directions."
Yeah,
and I say, "You know what? You're right."
And my wife drives every place. I don't drive. So she remembers every place we go one time. I can drive the route 50 times and I don't remember.
I don't even want to.
You know what? I don't even know what street is 2 blocks from here.
I don't either. It's terrible.
Well, you wouldn't because you don't have to live here. I have to live here. I should know.
No, but I mean, I don't know. The street's 2 blocks from me.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I know what you meant.
But also, I got to tell you, I'm embarrassed to tell you how many times I drove to the studio. How many weeks it took me before I didn't need the GPS.
What studio?
This studio.
Oh, we're in a studio now.
The studio.
Wow.
Can't you see the studio?
I know
all around it, Frank. It's all around.
It's all around.
Can't you feel the showbiz vibe? The smell of the roar of the grease paint, the smell of the crowd.
Yeah. Speaking of
stinks, let's get off of this.
No, speaking of smell of the crowd, our guest today knows all about crowds. He was a general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1998 when they won the World Series. So can we bring on Fred Clare?
Let's do it. All right, let's bring him in.
Derek, can you bring on our guest, Fred Clare, longtime general manager of the Dodgers, cancer survivor, and all-around great guy. How are you, Fred?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Great to be with you.
Yes, my partner, Billy O'Connor, and that's my other partner, Derek Harris.
How are you, Fred? A real pleasure to have you here, pal. Thanks
Gary,
very much
Gary.
for gracing us with your presence. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
So, Fred, I would be remiss if we didn't start. We're in Pasadena. My house is in Pasadena. You're in the desert now, but you live locally. You do a lot of work in Pasadena. We would be remiss if we didn't start with Jackie Robinson, who is a native of Pasadena. What's your memories of Jackie?
Well, I have several unforgettable, everlasting memories of Jackie, and those memories occurred in a very important year. The year was 1972. I had been with the Dodgers for only 3 years, and we were in June of 1972. We were going to retire the first numbers in Dodger history. And those numbers were the numbers of Jackie, Roy Campanella, and Sandy Koufax. So on that June date in 1972 at the Old Timers game, before Jackie went onto the field, he was standing near the Dodger dugout. I was there with him as we made plans for the ceremony. I think I was vice president of public relations at that time. And there was a fan in the stands who had a ball. I said, Jackie, sign this ball. Please sign this ball. And he threw the ball towards Jackie. Jackie's eyesight was so bad at that time, there was no way he could have seen the ball, or caught the ball, certainly. The ball hit him on the shoulder, bounced up, hit him in the head, and everyone around Jackie went crazy. Get that guy. Throw him out of the stadium. Get that guy. And I'll never forget Jackie's reaction. Jackie said, calm down. Calm down. Give me the ball. They picked the ball up. They gave it to Jackie. He said, give me a pen. Gave Jackie a pen. Jackie signed it, gave it back to someone near him, and said, give the ball back to the gentleman. And I think to me, that was the true essence of Jackie Robinson, when all the world and all of the commotion, Jackie had the sense of being in control, of being calm. And I realized at that time that I certainly knew that I was in the presence of greatness, but I saw the essence of Jackie Robinson. So that was a very vivid memory of Jackie. And the second memory took place later that year at the World Series in Cincinnati, Oakland and Cincinnati, when the commissioner, Bowie Kuhn, invited Jackie to throw out the first ball. And Jackie said, I will throw it out if you give me the opportunity to speak. And the commissioner certainly agreed to that. And you can go online and see this on YouTube and other places. It's a classic film of Jackie speaking on that day, talking about he was pleased to see the progress that baseball has made in diversity, but there was so much more to do. And Jackie said, I will not be happy until I see a black man in the third base coaching box, meaning as manager of the baseball team. This is 1972. There has not as yet been a black manager of a major league team. And so here was Jackie, again, his vision very bad, struggling with his health, but he wanted to make that statement of diversity. Jackie died 9 days later at the age of 52. So he certainly, being his presence, understanding who he was, what he meant, how he cared about others, certainly impacted my life, and I know it's impacted many lives.
I know you still are friendly with Rachel Robinson, who's 99 now. Does she talk about the early days and what Jackie had to go through?
You know what Rachel says that really is quite remarkable. She says that when I first met Jackie, and this was at UCLA, and he was the great multi-sport star, football, basketball, track and field, baseball, of course. Rachel said, as only Rachel would know, the thing that attracted me most about Jackie was his humility. And again, I think that speaks to who Jackie was as a person. There was a determination, there was a talent, but there was a dedication to continually try to do the right thing. So the love story, the story of Jackie and Rachel is everlasting. And I've been blessed to know Rachel and the Robinson family for many, many years. I was in Montreal when they honored Jackie one year with a statue. Fortunate to be at the Shea Stadium in New York when Jackie's number was retired by all major league teams. Had the honor to be at the Rose Bowl when a statue of Jackie was dedicated, and had the honor to be there with Rachel and introduced Vinny as the MC of the ceremony.
Sorry to interrupt, but that was a football statue because
that is football statue. Yeah, Jackie was a great football player. The athletic talent of Jackie has everyone who played with him. And being fortunate through the old timers games to have the honor to know Roy Campanella and Pee Wee Reese and Duke Snyder and all of those players who knew Jackie. Don Newcomb certainly. His talent was an incredible talent in every sport he played.
And his brother was an Olympian as well. He was nipped at the wire by Jesse Owens in the '36 Olympics.
Whoa!
Mac Robinson was a great athlete, a great Olympic participant, and in many ways, of course, with Jackie's greatness, Mac was somewhat, should have been, but as history would have it, somewhat overshadowed of this great Olympic athlete. Mac lived all of his life in Pasadena, and again, it's been an honor to know Mac's family in Pasadena, the Robinson family, and so it's a great legacy. And right near City Hall, there are statues of Jackie and of Mac, because the thing about it, Frank, is they went so far beyond sports in what they did to help their communities.
Yeah, and I think the statue has got Jackie facing east, where he would go to break the color barrier, and Mac facing Pasadena, downtown, where he would work for the rest of his life. So
yes, and those are anyone visiting Pasadena. If you check out the location of City Hall, you will see those wonderful statues.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to meet Jackie in 1968 when he spoke at my high school graduation. I grew up in Valhalla, New York, which was not far from New York City, and Jackie spoke. And Campy used to come to our football games because Campy lived in Greenberg, and his son was a football player at Woodlands High School. So we used to see Campy all the time, and I got to meet Jackie Robinson, and those were great days for sure. So I wanted to touch briefly on Larry Doby, because Larry was a great man also, but he was the number 2. He was the first black to be in the major leagues, in the American League. And he's often overshadowed. Well, we were talking about number 2s, Buzz Aldrin, Larry Doby. Who are some of the other number 2s we came up with? But how do you knew Larry as I did. What were your impressions of Larry?
Well, Larry was one of the many great players who didn't get his chance in the major leagues until a little later in his career, but certainly made an impact immediately. And I think the thing about Larry, for any of those who knew him or know his history, was the quality of the person. It wasn't just that he was a great player. I think of players like Larry, and I think of another dear friend who got his start late, and that was Monty Irvin. Mm-hmm. These were great people who conducted their lives in a wonderful way, and didn't get the attention of course, of Jackie, who broke the barrier. But there were so many other wonderful athletes where they had their opportunity through the work of Jackie. And this is what Branch Rickey realized in signing Jackie as the first player. You're going to have to be more than a great player. You're going to have to show that you can set an example, because you're going to face a lot of challenges. Can you be the right person? Can you set the right example? And certainly those players, when you think of Roy and you think of Larry Doby and Monty Irvin, and even players who, Satchel Paige, who didn't get his chance until what? He was nearly 40 years old. So it's been great to see that many of the players who came from the Negro Leagues have received credit, but in all candor, far more is deserved of their accomplishments.
Well, the one thing you have to say is the word character. Character comes through. And in your rise from PR director to vice president of public relations to general manager, that must have been a big factor in you putting together your team in '88 from the team you inherited in '86 and '87. Character. Can you speak to that?
Very definitely, Frank, because I have often said, many people in baseball have heard me use these words: the most underrated part of a scouting report, most underrated part, there's nothing close, is character, makeup. That is the thing, the talent of a player who's being considered for professional baseball is an extraordinary talent, no matter what level you play at. But I have seen through the years the importance of makeup and character. And I placed a big emphasis. And sometimes I made a mistake by going too much for the talent and not staying with my theme of character. But in '88, when I signed and we brought in players like Kirk Gibson, like John Shelby, like Mickey Hatcher, like Rick Dempsey, like Tim Belcher. These were all Jay Howe. These were all players. And I would talk to our scouts. Okay, forget it. Okay, I read your report. I see how you're judging. Tell me about the player. Tell me about the person. What is he like in the clubhouse? How does he get along with his teammates? What is his competitive spirit? How does he handle adversity? And that theme really, I think, shows today, 30-some years later, of those players of '88. And Frank, there's nothing new. Again, having the honor to know and still know and be a friend of Carl Erskine, to know Roy and Jackie and Pee Wee and Duke, George Shuba, you can go right down the list. I had a chance to see what these people were all about as people. And it's so important.
Yeah, you're a pioneer of analytics. However, Rod Carew always says that tell me all you want about 5-tool players. There's a 6-tool, and that's the head, and that's where the character and the heart comes in, and that's an often overlooked factor in assessing players, and that's one reason that you were so successful. Tell me what you're feeling like in 1968 when Kirk Gibson comes up to the plate against the righty. What the righty's now? I can't remember. The Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame. Right? Yeah.
Dennis Eckersley.
Yeah.
1988.
That was voted, by the way, the seminal moment in LA sports history.
That home run.
Yeah.
Did Shelby had just walked before that? Is that correct?
Mike Davis drew a walk, I believe.
Okay. Sorry.
Kirk comes up and he had didn't start the game due to an injury that he suffered in the championship series.
Hamstring.
His leg, his hamstring, and it was a moment, certainly, as history showed. But no matter what was to happen, it was the moment for Kirk. Kirk loved the position of being in the most important moment of any game of any season. And it's appropriate we're discussing this because this is the day I read this morning where Kirk has been added, become the 5th member of the Legends of Dodger Baseball, a new category that they have formed. But the thing that stood out about Kirk, and looking at all of the reports, and I remember talking to a dear friend, a scout, Dale McReynolds, who had been a scout for years, who had seen Kirk in high school, who had seen him in college. And I remember his grades and his words in describing Kirk. And Dale was a very conservative scout. These remarks were off the chart. And I called Dale. I said, Dale, I've read a lot of your reports. I have never seen you so strong about the influence and the character of a player. And he said, Fred, that's what I see and that's what I believe. So here comes Kirk, now all well documented. He's a very studious guy. He had read the report of our great scout, my dear friend Mel Didier. If Dennis Eckersley goes 3-2 on a left-handed hitter, partner, look for that backdoor slider. And that's the pitch that Eckersley threw, and that's the pitch that Kirk hit, and that's the pitch that goes down, and the play that goes down as one of the great, if not the greatest moment in LA sports history.
And they defeated Billy's Mets. Billy O'Connor's Mets. How much money did you lose on that series?
Well, you know what? With the Mets in '88, I had a gin mill, a joint not too far from Shea Stadium, so I was very interested in the Mets. And Gibson sort of broke my heart. But they beat Oakland that year, right? Is that right?
Beat Oakland, and the Mets during the season had every right to be confident. This is impossible. You need to double check this. I believe the Mets had beaten us in the regular season like 10 or 11 or 12 times. It was ridiculous. The Mets had a wonderful team. And I'll never forget when we eliminated the Mets at Dodger Stadium, that Joe McIlvaine and Al Harrison and others came over to the clubhouse to offer their congratulations. And the Mets actually had a hand in helping us because we had made a trade. I had made a trade preceding the season at the winter meetings where we were in need of a left-handed relief pitcher and got Orozco from the Mets in a 3-team deal that also brought us the shortstop that we needed, Alfredo Griffin, and the closer that we needed in Jay Howe. So the Mets had a hand in that.
What did it feel like when you won the '88 World Series? How do you describe that feeling?
Frank, we had been through such a tough time We had in '86 we were 16 games under 500 at the bottom.
And you took over
I took over in '87.
Okay.
We were 16 games again under 500. So we go in, and we had been through the turmoil of a great friend and a great contributor to the game, Al Campanis, being asked to resign from the Dodgers at the beginning of '87 when I took over as the general manager. And as we came down and we're having a good season, a great season, beat the Mets, and now we're in the World Series, I had one driving thought. When we do this, and we're going to do this, I'm going to have a chance to thank the Dodger scouts, the Dodger player development people, the Dodger organization, Tommy and his coaches. Because this, when you win, this is a team accomplishment. And that stayed in my mind. I was a runner in those days. I would go out and run in every city that I was in. And I kept thinking, I'm going to be blessed with an opportunity to thank the people that made this possible. And it's on the internet. And when Bob Costas asked me what I'm thinking, I told him just that. I want to pay tribute to the people who made this possible. And that's the greatest part. And those friendships remain. There has been no bigger booster in my battle with cancer than Kurt and Oral and others from that '88 team. So those friendships, 30 plus years later, remember. So that's my memory of what took place, because it wasn't just a moment. It was the formation of lifetime friendships.
Yeah. In 2020, and I'm sorry, Billy.
No, not at all.
In 2020, as juxtaposed at 1988, you guys were really down in '88 or in '87 and '86, as you said. In 2020, the Dodgers had been on the brink. I've been on the brink. I'm on the brink. I think the difference between your team and 2020 team is when you guys won, you got to express joy at having to win. I think that Dave Roberts and Clayton Kershaw and all those fellows expressed relief at having to finally won, rather than experience the joy of winning. Do you think that was the case?
Oh, there's no question. The Dodgers, and I don't blame them. We're so tired of hearing about 1988 that they could barely stand it. And I don't blame them for that. In all of this, from the Dodgers of today, the person who has become a great friend, a close friend, and who I respect so much is Dave Roberts. So I was so happy to see Dave have the World Championship, and I could not have greater respect for a manager or for a man than I have for Dave Roberts. So I'm thrilled for them, and I look forward, and they've got another great team. They've done a wonderful job. I look forward to them celebrating another World Championship where all of the fans can participate, as they should be able to, and hopefully that will happen.
Well, Fred, you were obviously overjoyed when they won in 2020 because you're a lifelong Dodger fan, a lifelong member of the organization and everything else. But it touches me that you're talking more about character than you are talent, about the character of the men. You know, you talked about the anecdote about Jackie getting hit with a baseball and keeping his head while all about him was losing theirs,
Yes.
which is the very definition of a man.
Yes.
You talk about Gibson's character. Would you compare that to Mookie Betts? Would you compare Oral Hershiser to Kershaw character-wise?
Kirk was not only is a fierce competitor. I can remember, and it showed early on in the story, well documented, in spring training when he went out for the first game and his hat came off and there was the shoe black on his forehead, and he wanted to meet with the team the next day. But beyond that, Kirk and playing in spring training.
Well, I'm sorry, Fred. You mentioned the shoe black story. Why don't you tell that story, because that's a great story.
That was the essence of Kirk. When I had dinner with Kirk after I had signed him at a restaurant in Pasadena, Sheryl 9. And Kirk is a student of the game and a student of all that he does. And I remember at the dinner, he looked at me and he said, Fred, I've studied your team of last year. He said, I want to tell you something. He said, I may have to kick some ass around. And I said, Kirk, why do you think you're here? And so now, before the first spring training game, Kirk goes out to run. Bright day, little wind at Olson Stadium. And his cap flies off, framed in the outfield. And the people in the stands start to point to his face. And unbeknownst to Kirk, a player that turned out it was Jesse Orozco had put shoe black in the cap, and now Kirk's got a forehead with painted black. Kirk did not play in that game. Once he saw what they were laughing about and touched his forehead, he called me and he said, Fred, I won't be here for this game. I'll be back tomorrow morning, and I want to meet with the team. And Kirk did just that. Didn't play in that game, a game he was looking forward to, first start, even an exhibition game. Wanted to have the team meeting, met with Tommy and myself, told us what he wanted to do. And he basically said to the team, look, I don't know why you guys are here, but I'll tell you why I'm here. I'm here to help win a championship. And I want to know who in the hell did this, because I want to talk to that guy, and I want the team, you to know why I'm here. It's probably not fair to the team because it was somewhat isolated on the part of Jesse, who was a fun-loving guy, because we had the character of the players of Mike Scioscia, of Steve Sachs, of Oral Hershiser. We had strong character players that had been with the Dodgers. They just needed the emphasis. But that set the tone for the season because that's who Kirk was. And here's the thing. Kirk is dealing with Parkinson's. And Kirk and I, when I talked to him about it, he doesn't even refer to Parkinson's as Parkinson's. He's not going to give it that credit. He calls it Parky, like it's some little incidental thing that he's going to deal with. In everything he does, he gives the best that he has to give. So he has character plus in a big, big time way.
I'm going to shoot you some names, and you just tell us about the people. I'm going to shoot you the names. Fernando Valenzuela, because you were at the heart of Fernando Mania.
Fernando, remember his first start. I had been on the field in preparation for opening day. Fernando warms up in the bullpen, comes into the dugout. I've been around a lot of major league players. This is a player about to make his first major league start, opening day, 55,000 plus, all the celebration, standing there near Fernando. I literally could feel the calmness of Fernando. It was as if they have set the stage for me, and now I'm going onto the stage. And he went on to the greatest start, one of the greatest starts in the history of Major League Baseball. A great competitor, a fierce competitor. I'm so happy to see the success he's had after his baseball career.
Vin Scully.
Vin Scully, the greatest, um, uh, who does so much for so many. The the talent, the passion for the game, uh, the passion for always doing the right thing. I can't think of anyone in a career who has set a better example for people in his profession or for all of us than my dear friend Ben, the very best.
Sandy Koufax.
Sandy, a once in a lifetime talent who was a perfectionist in everything he did, who was humble, but who had a great desire to be the best that he could be, and a legendary figure.
Hideo Nomo.
Hideo Nomo, one of the great opportunities of my life was signing Hideo when there really had not been a player ever to come from Japan. One player in 20 years previously in a kind of a strange transaction ended up pitching for the Giants, but Hideo really broke the barrier of players coming from Japan.
That was Masanori Murakami, correct? In
Yes.
64 with the Giants?
Yes. And with Hideo, I remember sitting in my office with Hideo and his agent, Don Nomura, and they were seeking a major league contract. And we, the Dodgers at that time, had never given a major league contract to a player who hadn't been in professional baseball. And I told Hideo and Don that major league contracts were earned and not given. Hideo understood that. He said that he wanted to be sure of only one thing, that he would have an opportunity, and I assured him that he would have an opportunity.
So I'm gonna reach back in your past. You know, you and I have a little bit similar backgrounds. I went into PR with the World Football League. Had a chance to interview with Salty Saltwell, the general manager of the Cubs, when they were looking to replace their PR director. I decided to get out of PR and pursue other avenues, but you pursued it. And I'm going to ask you about Red Patterson, who was a guy that I really liked growing up because he invented the tape measure tape measure home run when he was with the New York Yankees, and he was an early role model for you, wasn't he?
Well, I had the great fortune when I joined the Dodgers in 1969. I was hired by Arthur Red Patterson. At that time, the Dodger front office in publicity, marketing, public relations, publications, speakers bureau, we go on and on. It's handled when I joined Red after there had been a vacancy. It was Red, myself, and one secretary, Janet Calderwood. There must be 500 people in those departments now, but I was fortunate. There were only 3 of us. So I had the opportunity to work with Red, to see the passion that Red had, to see the work ethic that Red had. And I'll never forget that when Red met with Gene Autry at Lakeside Country Club, and was offered the job as Vice President of Public Relations and Promotions. Was offered the job as President of the Angels. He had been Vice President of PR for the Dodgers, and that day, it was going to be the date of the baseball writers' dinner that night, and Peter O'Malley called me and said he would like to meet with me that night because Red was leaving to become the President of the Angels, and on that night at the Biltmore Hotel, Peter had met with his father, Walter O'Malley, and I was offered the position to become the Vice President, replacing Red. So Red was a legendary figure in the game in terms of PR, promotions, and it's wonderful you mentioned his name, Frank, because he really was, I think, was one of the first. Bob Fischel may have also been there with the Yankees to carry the title or receive the title of Vice President of Public Relations. Red was a forerunner. Red was a wonderful man and an unforgettable friend.
Well, it's ironic. It's ironic that the Dodgers had both Reds. They had Vin Scully and Red Patterson at this simultaneously at the same time, and they were both forerunners to a lot of great things.
You know,
Yeah,
Fred,
yes.
Fred, we've interviewed so many successful people, and we have like an ongoing theme that always pops up is flexibility and luck. Flexibility and luck, being at the right place at the right time, being flexible. And you started your career, I mean, as a journalist. You got your bachelor in journalism from San Jose State, and you went to cover
Yes.
the Dodgers. Take us up that ladder. What happened? How you ended up moving up that whole organization and staying with the Dodgers?
Well, I got into journalism because I wanted to be involved in sports. And growing up in a small town in Ohio, my passion, sports. And even at a very young age, I was trying to figure out how do I stay in this area that I loved so much. And I realized my talent as an athlete was only going to take me so far. So I somehow, as fate would have it, had an opportunity to get into some writing classes. I wanted to use my ability as a writer to stay connected with sports. I went to San Jose State, journalism major. Started off working for the Whittier paper, then the Pomona paper, and then had the opportunity to join the Dodgers in 1969 as director of publicity. So it's step by step. I talked to a group of students just a day or so ago at SMU who are sports marketing, sports business students. And the thing that I said to the students is that I was fortunate to be in baseball as publicity director, but when I was publicity director, the only thing I wanted to do was to do the job to the best of my ability. When I became vice president of public relations and promotions, that was my same goal. When I became executive vice president, that was my same goal. And when I became executive vice president, general manager. So I think that what I advise students, and I think the real key, as all of you know, and Frank certainly knows, you have to have a passion for what you do. You have to enjoy it. You have to want to do it. You have to love it. And I always was fortunate to be in jobs that I was very passionate about it, and try to learn each and every day. I think it's critical.
You know, we often talk about luck, and I've been very lucky in my life. You've been very lucky in your life. We've all had successful people have all been lucky. I think maybe the biggest factor in your success was the lucky move from your hometown of Ohio to Long Beach. How do you think your career would have manifested itself had you stayed in Ohio? Do you ever think of that?
No, my father owned a small drugstore. He was not a pharmacist. My grandfather, my mother's father, was a pharmacist. But you know, Frank, I think that I loved Ohio. I loved every bit of living in Ohio. I think again, it gets down to hopefully you can find the joys in life in what you do. But I think as long as you stay after your goals, you know, when luck is mentioned, I think of a term that the great Branch Rickey used so often. Luck is the residue of design. So, and again, for young people, that's what I tell them. What is it you enjoy? Or if you want to be in sports, work at it, learn it, seek out advice from others, continue every day. You're going to face in any profession you're in, you're going to face a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges. You have to have the inner strength to overcome those. And that's what can help you find success. And I think that certainly was a key to my enjoyment and to my advancement with the Dodgers is that I loved what I did. I loved every moment of it.
Well, Steve Papazian, who we had on here, was a head of Warner's for years and years and years, and he said the same thing. It was just doing the best job he could do with whatever he was assigned all the way up the ladder. And
Yeah, I think if you're looking over here or you're looking over there, you're distracted. When you're being paid by your employer, you have an obligation. You have an obligation to take that very seriously, and I always did. But I was very fortunate because to work under Walter Francis O'Malley, and Peter O'Malley, and to be around great people in the Dodger organization, scouts, minor league people, to know and become a very close friend of Walter Olson, and then of Tommy, and now to know and have a friendship with Dave Roberts. That's really the fulfillment of a journey and great satisfaction and rewards.
So, Fred, I'm going to ask you, after your messy dismissal from Fox, I'll just leave it at that, you've become a pioneer in analytics with your friend Ari Kaplan. You've become an author, but you've also become a cancer survivor. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey through cancer?
Well, my journey is now into its sixth year. And in my case, what happened was that through many days in the sun, and people who are in the sun, or as we age, need to be aware of this, I had a little spot on my lip. You could barely notice it. And I went in to see my dermatologist, and she looked at it and said, we better, I'm fair skinned, so I've had many little spots that they freeze off. On this one, she said, we better take a biopsy of this. And she did, and I'll never forget the call. It was in my car. She said, Fred, this is a little bit more than what you've normally dealt with. The biopsy shows this is a little cancerous tumor. It doesn't appear to be anything, but you really need to see a Mohs procedure doctor to remove this. So I went in, had the spot removed from my lip. Unfortunately, sadly, the doctor failed me on a very simple operation, didn't get all the margin. This was in 2015. And come 2016, I had this incredible pain in my face, and went in for any number of exams, and they finally showed that the little spot should have been removed, had now moved in my jaw, and was going up my jawbone. And so I remember the recommendation of City of Hope, and going into City of Hope in Duarte, California. And my wonderful doctor, Dr. Vernon, said, Fred, this is very serious. He said, we have to do something immediately. The cancer is a very nasty cancer. It's squamous cell carcinoma, and it spreads quickly. And so he said, it's kind of interesting, Frank, in the journey of life. He said, we can do very elaborate surgery. Normally, people your age, we wouldn't recommend this, but you're in good health. We can take a bone from your leg and replace your jawbone. And I said, Dr. Vernon, I've never been afraid of a challenge, but I'm 80 years old. That sounds like a big deal. And I said, what are the other alternatives? He said, well, we can cut your throat, take the cancer out, hollow out the jawbone of the tumor. And that's what they did. 2 years later, 2019, I guess, my jawbone had been destroyed by 33 radiations chemo treatment. So now I go back in, and the only alternative was to do that same operation. So they took the fibula bone from my left leg and replaced my jawbone. So I'm thankful to the City of Hope, and because it was really that operation and then immunotherapy. And so I do, as you know, Frank, all that I can do. We've been very fortunate to be able to help City of Hope, and among other things, 2 golf tournaments. And in the first tournament, I wanted to give a Celebration of Life award. I wanted to give that award for 2 reasons. I wanted to celebrate someone who had been so helpful to others, and I wanted a quote to be placed on the trophy of the Celebration of Life award. And the person I thought of, which brought you and I closer together, was Rod Carew. And through you and Rod, in agreeing to accept the Celebration of Life award, that first award was presented in 2017 at a time when I was fighting cancer. And the quote on that Celebration of Life award was one by Jackie Robinson that I wanted to have and salute to the City of Hope. And that quote of Jackie, of course, is, "A life is not important except on the impact it has on other lives." So I'm appreciative to all who have helped, forever grateful to the City of Hope. And as you know, and it shows in the background here, the story is covered in the book Extra Innings, with all net proceeds to the City of Hope, Fred Clare's journey to City of Hope and finding a world championship team. So that is what occupies much of my efforts today, is to do everything that I can to help other cancer victims, survivors, and to do all I can to call attention to the great work of City of Hope.
Fred, it's remarkable the work that you do, and you and Sheryl are very committed to that cause. Billy?
Talking about skin cancer, I have the fair skin you do, but it's inspirational, your story. And Celebration of Life, that's something at our age, I'm 74 now, something we should be doing every day, is celebrating life, and the way it flies by, So, I mean, it really is an inspirational story, and what you're giving back to.
Are you guys doing a golf tournament this year?
We won't, with all the obstacles as far as bringing people together, but I definitely plan to have another event to benefit City of Hope, and so probably next year, if not a golf tournament, certainly some signature type of event where we can continue to raise money for the City of Hope, and it's absolutely right, as we advance in age and in life, the importance of doing what we can to help others. At the Rose Bowl a week ago, I was with the Marshall School of Business in an event at the Rose Bowl, where we were talking to students at the Marshall School and the Leventhal School of Accounting, and trying, and it's where I've spent a lot of my time, because after Dodger days, the things that I've been involved with, I helped to launch the sports business class at USC, sports business and the media. Had the chance to help start the Long Beach State Sports Management Graduate Program. And my last assignment was to start the first sports business class at Caltech. Now several of my former students are working in Major League Baseball. Along with all of that, over at the Rose Bowl event, one of the things that I wanted was a commemoration, and each person in attendance received this wonderful plaque that the Marshall School did. And of course, it's Jackie Robinson's quote about the importance of life. So I think that the enjoyment, as you say, the enjoyment of each day, we need to understand that. And with all the turmoil in our world, with all the challenges in our lives, we need to do two things. We need to do the best we can, and we need to help others. And if we do those things, I think we can find more joy in life.
I want to ask you about one more person. Tommy Lasorda is not that person. I've got a checkered past with Tommy Lasorda, and I don't want to go into that. But Walter Alston, who preceded him, is overlooked as the manager of the Dodgers. It really was Walter Alston's built that foundation with Walter O'Malley that Tommy succeeded with. Tommy was just a self-promoter, if you will. But if I had to cast an actor to play Walter Alston in a movie, it would be John Wayne. Can you tell us a little about Walter Alston?
Oh, he was special, Frank, and coming from a small town in Ohio, Jamestown, Ohio. I think from the very outset gave Walter Alston and I a connection. Walter from Dartown, I was from Jamestown, the love of baseball. Walter's major league career consisted of only one at bat for the St. Louis Cardinals, but he was a wonderful man, a wonderful manager of men, who was strong, who was smart. It was never about self-promotion. It was always about the team. And great memories of being with Walter. And when I think of Walter, I think of his coaches, who became such dear friends. Not big names in baseball, but wonderful men, Monty Basgall and Ed Adams and Annie Ozark and Roy Hartsfield. And then went on. Danny became a major league manager. Roy became a major league manager. Walter was the essence of what the Dodgers were all about player development, because that's where he had spent his time before he got the chance to manage the team, and about putting the team first, which he always did. And so he is a true Hall of Famer, and wonderful memories, and stay in touch today with Walter's grandchildren, Kim and Rob Ogle.
And he managed, what years did he manage? I think his last year was 73 or something. I can't recall. I think he started in the mid-50s. Do you recall?
So, Walter managed, of course, until Tommy took over. So that was Walter managed through 76, I guess it would have been. And he became the manager. He replaced, if history has me correct in this, Charles Chuck Dressen.
Right.
And that was back in probably the early
50s.
1950s. Well, of course, Walter managed the Dodgers World Championship, of the first World Championship and only World Championship in Brooklyn in 1955, and then the Dodgers moved to Los Angeles and World Series victory in 1959, 1963, 1965.
Yep.
So Walter was a winner, and I don't know of any Dodger player. I don't know of a one who didn't respect Walter Alston. He was, as the title he was given suggests, the quiet man. But don't be deceived by the strength of the quiet man. And there are a couple of remarkable stories. There was one time when he was on a bus with the team, and the air conditioning was out, and the players were yelling at the bus driver and complaining. Walter said, "Stop the bus. Stop the bus." Walter said, "I'm going to walk outside this bus. Any of you who have any complaints about the bus, just come right down these stairs and talk to me." There was never.
Steve Garvey.
Now, I'll tell you another story that has really, I've seldom said it, has never been written. It involves a man who, I'm actually a Facebook contact, and a wonderful man by the name of Andy Costco.
Right.
An outfielder. You may know the name.
I do know the name.
Andy Costco is a right-handed hitter, and one day when Waller was managing, left-hand pitching, Andy comes out, looks at the lineup card, sees that he's not in the lineup, and rips it apart. Monty Basco, Walt's bench coach, said, "Oh, this is not good." So Monty tries to track Walt's handwriting every step of the way. Makes out a new lineup card. Puts it on the dugout wall. I'm in the dugout and see all this before a game. So we know what's going to happen. Walt comes out and looks at that lineup card and does a double take. He said, "Monty, what happened to my lineup card?" And Monty said, "Well, hey, Skip, that's your card. That's your card." He said, "Monty, I'm going to ask you one more time. What happened to that friggin' lineup card?" So Monty told him. Eddie had seen it, didn't like it, tore it up. So Walt says, "Where is he?" I said, "I think he went back to the clubhouse." So I followed Walt back to the clubhouse. Andy Costco was a big, strong man. Walter Alston walks up to Andy, and I won't repeat all of the words, but the message was, "You ever touch my lineup card again, and you're going to regret it for a lifetime."
Wow.
That was not a show. I don't think Walt, I'm sure, he never told that story to anybody about how tough I am. But what you do when you do the right thing is you gain respect. And that's what Walter Alston did throughout his career.
And I think
And he and Tommy, obviously, different personalities, different people, both certainly deserving to be in the Hall of Fame, had their own accomplishments, and showed different styles of management, but it showed both could be successful.
yeah, and the thing that struck me about Walter Alston is he managed he had 22 one-year contracts. I think he finally got a 2-year contract at the last 2 years of his reign.
No, he didn't.
He didn't.
No, he didn't. When Walter O'Malley, the businessman, took over the Dodgers, I think he was paying 3 different managers. So I'm never doing that again. And Walter accepted that. He said, when he managed 22 seasons, when I had a bad year, they didn't fire me. When I had a good year, that was fine. So he was happy with that. He loved managing until the very end, and just loved every bit of it, and certainly had all the success in the world. And when Tommy became the manager, replacing Walt, I said, "Tommy, what do you think of Walt managing 22 years? Can you do that?" And Tommy, always with a quip, said, "I just hope to live that much longer." So they both earned their place in Dodger history.
Well, I know it's getting late in the day, and I know you and Sheryl have a golf appointment this afternoon. So we're going to let you go. I'm going to just ask Billy to ask you one final question.
I got to ask you one question. I'm going to put you on the hook, too. I mean, but I got to ask you, because of your acumen and how long you've been in the game, who's the greatest of all time? Who's the greatest you ever saw play ball? Whoever laced him up.
He's not going to give you the answer that you want.
The
answer that you're fishing for is not. He's not going to give you the answer you're fishing for.
I'm asking him objectively, and I got to ask his opinion.
Well, that is for history to debate. But I would say, in my view, as far as what I determine the greatest accomplishments have a player, the most unforgettable player, uh,
42.
42.
Robinson.
Wow.
or number 42, and that was Jackie. We couldn't debate. I was a great Red Sox fan as a youngster, loved Ted Williams. My brother was a great Cardinal fan, loved Stan Musial. Who can ever forget the accomplishments of a Joe DiMaggio or of a Willie Mays? But when I think about the overall contributions, when you have to start singling out the game's greats, I go to Jackie.
Yeah, well, the name Fred Claire won't be far behind them. Thanks so much, Fred.
Great to be with you guys. Anytime. Enjoy every moment.
And enjoy your golf with Sheryl.
Thank you
Will
so
do.
much, Fred. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you. Great.
Take care.
Another good guest.
That was great. Great. I got to ask you that you mentioned if you were going to cast Walter Austin, you would cast John Wayne. Was he physically imposing?
Yes.
Austin? He was big?
Yeah, he was probably maybe 6'2".
Uh-huh.
He was, now Fred's off. He's the antithesis of not Tommy Lasorda.
Uh-huh.
He was a quiet, strong guy. He made his presence known. Everything was about the team, whereas Tommy, everything was about Tommy, obviously.
Yeah.
Fred was very gracious in his relationship with Tommy, but I question whether it was as good as he says it was.
Yeah, it's really a frightening story when he talks about the little spot on his lip and what it became. I've had a few bouts with this stuff myself, but I had on my left calf a dot about that big, and they took off half my calf. And I talked to a fireman. He said, "Where'd you get that done?" I says, "The VA." He says, "Are you crazy?" He says, "Are you stupid? You go to the VA to find out what's wrong with you. You don't let them do anything."
Yeah, and they're still scraping it. Still scraping them off. If I had talked to you, I didn't talk to you this week because of your cell phone. But if I had talked to you 3 days, you probably were at the dermatologist.
I'm going Tuesday to get another one taken off. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, but if you're fair-skinned, for the love of God, put on the sunscreen. I don't know. I'm so stupid. I still don't put the stuff on.
Sunscreen and wear a hat and do everything. Yeah. I'm lucky. As a kid, I got migraines. I didn't realize it because I was getting migraines because I was dehydrated. And I never drank water when I was a kid. When I was growing up, it was always 95 in the summer. I would play ball all day. I get dehydrated and I get migraines. And nobody knew any better, so I took salt tablets. But I was lucky I wore hats. I always was wearing a Yankee hat or a Kensico Little League hat or something. But now,
man, you got to be, especially with the fair skin. You got to really be careful, man. I get them taken off all the time. But anyway, thank God he made it. Thank God. For the doctors. Thank God for the advances they made in cancer.
And again, he's 87, 88 years old.
He looks terrific.
He looks terrific.
And after all he's been through.
Yep.
Terrific.
And off there, and he's been through. Anyway, he was a good interview. It was a great, you know what? We've done it again. We've done it again. On the back. We've done it again. Pick up Extra Innings, Fred's book. All the proceeds go to City of Hope Hospital. It'll be a great read. And it helps a great cause.
Well, now that we've completed this episode, Frank, and we've done so marvelous as we always do you think a statue will be necessary, or will a bus be sufficient of the two of us?
Yeah. We have
one more time.
We'll put a corner. We'll put a corner of the studio with a Mo, Larry, and Curly. And
don't even go there.
I'll let Derek decide
which one he wants to be.
Who wants to pick first? Mick and Mook and a Mike, Mo, Larry, and Curly. It's perfect. Say goodnight, Billy.
Good night, Billy.
Good night, Derek.
Good night, friends, folks. Thanks for tuning in. And if you want to read a little bit more about Tommy Lasorda, I recommend the chapter.
Oh, you read a little about Tommy Lasorda, all right.
You want to read a little bit more about the Dodgers? We have a chapter of that in our book, If These Lips Could Talk. I highly recommend it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Next week's guest, two-time winner on the PGA Tour, pro golfer Donnie Hammond.
We'll see you next week.